House of the Dragon is actually coming out on Sunday. I didn't know it was coming out so soon. So because the release date is right around the corner, we actually are getting reviews now. The embargo, I'm guessing, got lifted because the reviews are out. I'm really curious to how this show is going to perform for HBO because Game of Thrones is in a really bad place as a franchise. George R.R. Martin hasn't been doing anything to help fix it because he's been taking over a decade to release a book. And one of the reasons that it's taking so long is because he's doing everything but write the book. He's writing this show, writing other shows, making Elden Rings, writing every other book but the book he needs to make. Then you had the last season of the show on HBO, which I think is the real damage done to this franchise. I think that damage was catastrophic. It's going to be really interesting to see how this show performs. Will people come back to Game of Thrones? It's a legit question. It's a legit question. And, of course, the critics are doing their best job to help make that happen, except for reviews like this, which are kind of funny. House of the Dragon review, HBO's Game of Thrones prequel delivers dragons aplenty, but overloads on Targaryens in bad wigs. This one looks good. The wig on her looks good, though. I haven't seen the show, and I don't know if I'm going to watch it. I actually have HBO Max, but I don't know if I want to watch this because, for one, I don't know if I care. Don't really care about Game of Thrones that much anymore. That last season was really bad, really left a sour taste in my mouth because the first 5 or 6 seasons of Game of Thrones are amazing. Probably some of the best television out there, to be honest. It's great shit. But I have a hard time telling anybody to watch that show because I know how it ends. I know how bad those last 2 seasons are. So it's hard. Could I recommend that show to somebody? Because the last 2 seasons are just complete dog shit. How is this going to be? I mean, this book this show is based on a book that's like more of an appendices than anything. Fire and Blood, I think it's called. It's all about the history of the world of Game of Thrones, mostly Targaryens. And it's like, how much can they take from that to make a good series? I guess George R.R. Martin is working on this show quite a bit for whatever that's worth. But as you can see, critics doing the best they can. Winter has finally returned, but there's no chilly reception here. House of the Dragon receives rave early reviews from critics as fans gear up to watch Game of Thrones. 160 million prequel. So here's the thing that I want to go over with this. When it comes to early reviews, the people that get the earliest access to put out reviews are always the biggest shills. So the Rotten Tomatoes score before an embargo, when an embargo lifts, but the show's now, for example, She-Hulk, right? That's at 87% now with critics. But before the show actually aired, people were putting reviews out 2 days early. So people that had that early access all praised it. The Rotten Tomatoes score for that show was like 97 at one point. And then the show came out. It's out yesterday from what I understand. And people finally got to watch the first 4 episodes. It dropped to 87. So once access came out for everybody else, people started to be a little bit more critical of it, though they're still praising it. Go watch my previous video today on that. That's what happens because it's happening right now with this series. Because if you go to the House of the Dragon Season 1 page over on Rotten Tomatoes, it's at 76, which is bad. Real bad. But this article says that that's getting rave reviews. House of the Dragon premieres on HBO and HBO Max on Sunday. In the U.S., and the following day on Sky TV and other outlets for UK viewers, the series was created by George R.R. Martin and is based on his 2018 book, Fire and Blood, a comprehensive history of the House Targaryen, set 200 years before the events in Game of Thrones. So that's what's going on with this series. I just don't have high expectations for it. It's sad because, like I said, Game of Thrones was some great shit. Those first couple of seasons were amazing. Waiting a whole year for another season was fun. You speculate. You know, fans were doing what fans do, talking about what's going to happen, theories, conspiracies. It was fun to be a Game of Thrones fan. And then the last two seasons came, and it wasn't that fun. And everything leading up to this show hasn't been very fun either, because they're calling fans racist and shit because there's black Targaryens in it. They pulled the Star Wars card, if you remember what happened with Obi-Wan. So that's what's going on. We can take a look at some of these scores over on Rotten Tomatoes and see what people are actually saying. Here are some reviews from top critics. Though lacking the star power and production values of Game of Thrones, the new prequel series from HBO captures much of the magic and glory of it. Halfway through the second episode, instead of reminiscing about Starks and Lannisters, my focus becomes entirely fixed on the Targaryens. House of the Dragon may never be the next Game of Thrones, but it's poised to at least step out of the giant shadow. And here's a rotten one. The Game of Thrones prequel struggles to apply new makeup to the old face of palace intrigue. There's more, by the way. Here's a funny article from Slate. The Game of Thrones prequel suggests HBO didn't learn a thing from how it ended. If you thought the original got too grim and misogynistic, wait till you see House of the Dragon. Because there's violence towards women. One thing Game of Thrones did was show just how brutal it could be for women in a medieval age. But you're not allowed to show that in modern television because women are a protected class, but they want to portray them as strong and independent. You can never have anything bad happen to women in storytelling. This is the problem with She-Hulk and how She-Hulk's origin was changed. Like, you can't have any kind of bad predicaments happen to a woman. Apparently, a woman dies of childbirth in this, and it's suggested that this one woman, I guess, is being used to bear children, and apparently that's not allowed. Like, these were things that happened in the old days of the world. But you see stuff like this come out, and it's just really, it's so tiring. I just don't understand the big problem here. Like, listen to this. So they talked about how the original, like, this show is going to take on the patriarchy, but it's hard to tell that with all of the violence that gets done to women. Well, isn't that what they're doing then? Like, wouldn't that be it? In an attempt to calm the uproar over his comments, this is the stuff I was talking about before, would not shy away from depicting violence against women, which quickly grew into an outrage, basically. No, it didn't. For what, a handful of losers on Twitter? In an attempt to calm the uproar, House of the Dragon executive producer Sarah Hess issued a statement that the show's aim was to focus on the violence against women that is inherent in a patriarchal system. But there's so much violence in the show that it ceases to convey much of anything beyond the idea that this is a brutal and ugly world. That's not enough to tell us that a notorious brigand is nicknamed the Crab Feeder because of how he deposes his enemies. We get loving shots of men being nailed to stakes at low tide and screaming as crabs begin to nip at their flesh next to picked clean skeletons. with crustaceans oozing from their eye holes. It's difficult to process a critique of systemic patriarchy when you are focused on keeping your dinner down. So this person's obviously never watched Game of Thrones before. Because, like, did you ever watch that series? You're talking about keeping your dinner down? So this person doesn't want an action show or anything gruesome. They want just a straight-up hallway show where people talk about patriarchy. This is another problem with critics. So I don't know. Like I said, I'm curious to how this show's going to perform. Like, this is where the franchise dies if this does not perform well. This is it. This will be the end of the road for Fire and Ice. Because, I mean, there's been so much damage done. I really don't think this woke angle that they've been trying to say the show is running is going to work, because it just turns off old fans. And the new fans that don't pay for anything will just pirate it. You know, I don't understand modern entertainment at all in their marketing and the way they do things. It's just so ass backwards. Anyway, that's pretty much it. Let me know what you guys think. Also, if you would, please like, subscribe, share the video. Make sure you're still subscribed. Hit that notification bell. And I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace. Make sure to check out my locals. There's a link in the description. It's a fun community that I'm trying to build over here. If you don't want to support me on YouTube, you can come over here. None of that money goes to YouTube. You also can just come over here for free. But if you are a supporter over here, I do plan on doing an extra live stream once a month and throwing links to the supporters so you can actually come on and have a supporter live stream with me. Also, it's a good place to catch all of my content. You don't have to worry about notifications like YouTube. They'll definitely work over here. So come check out my locals. Also, if you want to help support the channel, check out my Teespring store. There's a link in the description. You can find some merchandise in there that you might want to check out. Also, make sure to follow me over on Twitch. I do watch parties, play video games over there. They're always fun. Follow me over there and come hang out. Also, make sure you subscribe to YellowFlash, my other channel. There's a link to that in the description as well. I do a lot of live streams over there that I don't do on this channel. Usually smaller and a little bit more personal. So make sure you follow me over there and sign up.